We are starting our first panel. I'm answering some of the questions from the chat. So each panel will take 45 minutes. On this, so the panel is focused on the government space programs and strategies. Andrew Robb is the moderator. Andrew, the floor is yours. Let me ping you so we can see.
Thank you, Alex and Junaid, for that introduction. So my name, as you can see on the screen, is Andy Robb from Access Partnership, and I have the coolest job title in the world. I'm our Global Chief Space Officer, but also I have the two coolest people in the world joining me on this panel to talk about our first session, which is around national space strategies. So as Junaid said, Access Partnership, in summary, we help organizations access the new space economy. And when you think about accessing the new space economy, the starting point for most countries sits within the civil space agencies as the catalyst for such an event. So before we get into the detail, I would like my colleagues here on the call to introduce themselves and explain a little bit what their role is in their respective space agencies. So if I may, I'll turn to Rasha first to introduce herself.
So good afternoon, esteemed guests. It's my pleasure to be here at the GCC Space and Security Conference and also alongside my colleagues. My name is Rasha Al-Ahmad, and I'm Chief Strategic Planning and Projects at Bahrain Space Agency. I was with the agency since its establishment, and I've worked on developing the national space policy, 3 strategic plans so far with relevant stakeholders and reporting on their progress. I also wear another hat, which is international collaborations. I try to build fruitful partnerships, whether with the private sector for potential business or with government space agencies and programs to work on joint missions, technology development, and knowledge transfer. And it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Rasha. And then I'll hand over to Hamid Al-Shekaili from MTCIT, which is obviously, if you don't know, the sort of equivalent of the Omani Space Agency. So tell us a little about himself.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hello, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank SpaceTech in Gulf for their first online conference. Actually, I'm proud to be here with you and to talk about Oman initiative in collaboration with all stakeholders in the world, alhamdulillah. And explaining myself and my role is my name Hamid Shekaili from the Sultanate of Oman. I work as a director of space projects program at the Ministry of Transport, Communications and Information Technology. Actually, my role as a director here to overseeing and coordinating the implementation of national space initiatives and projects, working with great team by the leadership of Dr. Saud and my colleagues here in Oman. Actually, our work here in Oman to achieve Oman ambition in space is related to Oman Vision 2040, and at the same time led by our space national policy and its executive program. And we are proud here again in this session.
Thank you very much. Okay, so as Alex said, please put questions in the chat and we'll get to those at the end. And the way we're going to run this, we're going to talk for about 20-25 minutes. And we have essentially 5 topics to cover here. So we're going to start from the vision of the National Space Agency in terms of strategy. And then we're going to touch upon, because you can't have a space conference without touching upon the word sovereignty. So we're going to discuss what that means now in today's context. And then we're going to talk a little bit about regulation, the good and bads potentially of that, before we get into the question of countries collaborating together in the guise of sovereignty or doing more on their own. And finally, complete the picture, talking about talent, workforce, and how we build capabilities in countries. So without further ado, topic 1. So we discussed really around this is around vision to execution. So understanding national space strategies, and I'm sure people have read a lot of these online, how they align to wider country strategies. But to bring it to life a little bit, I'd like to understand how are they changing, where are we now, And there's a second part to the question which will talk about prioritization, but mainly let's kick off. Perhaps I can go to you first, Rasha, talking about Bahrain and your national space strategy, please.
Sure. So in the case of the Kingdom of Bahrain, Vision 2030 was announced back in 2008, right? Before the National Space Policy was announced in 2018. Now, our National Space Policy was mainly to achieve His Majesty's vision in the space field and also supports Bahrain's Vision 2030, in addition to the government action plan and, of course, national needs. Now, our plan directly supports Bahrain's aspirations of moving from oil-driven economy to a competitive economy led by the private sector, right? So it directly supports this aspiration. Now, our national space policy, and I'll talk a little bit about that, it supports new space economy, apparently, where our focus is not only on government space missions, but also on, those words, commercialization, innovation, private sector participation, and economic impact. And all these are reflected, of course, in our national policy, right? In certain objectives like encouraging public-private partnerships, collaboration to achieve presence in space, creating a new space sector that supports economic diversification, again, away from the oil and gas sector, attracting investments through regulations, legislations, and incentives, and supporting R&D, innovation, entrepreneurship, and space data applications. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I love the focus as a commercial strategist, growing the economy in the context of the wider economy as well. So perhaps Hamid Al Shekaili, I can turn to you. Can you give us a little overview as well on your focus areas in Oman?
Yes, actually, when talking about space sector in Oman, it just has an interest to be a standalone sector or as a sector by the Royal Decree 90/2020. Actually, Oman have an attention to space sector as one of the important sector that works as enabler and standalone and one of the leverager for the Oman economy for the future. For this, our Oman National Space Policy and its executive program has just launched by 2023. That's mean from 2020 to 2020, mid of 2020 to the beginning of 2023, the preparation of that National Space Policy and executive program in collaboration with international partners, learning from others as we are going toward new space economy. Actually, we benefit much from the experience. At the same time, we have our own flavor with this Oman National Space Policy and its executive program. First of all, it's very aligned or linked with Oman Vision 2040. And at the same time, as a translation for Oman Vision 2040, it's translated by 5-year development plan. So Oman National Space Policy is very aligned with Oman Vision 2040. At the same time, with National Digital Economy Program. Why this? We embedded or we very aligned. We have very aligned alignment. We have a purpose with this and focus with Oman National Space Program and policy. To have an economic diversification. That's mean commercialization is the first, is our interest at this stage. At the same time, we have a concern to preserve our nature and environmental sustainability. The third thing is to have our national capabilities. That means we are able to do things to achieve the sovereignty by the future in each and every task and initiative that we are doing to build a space sector in the Sultanate in collaboration with other countries. Actually, when I say or when we focus with Oman National Space Strategy, which is from 2023 to 2033, as I mentioned, we focus on establishment of infrastructure of space. That means we are going to use this infrastructure to enable us to to have our own capabilities that integrate with the entire world at the same time and to serve the world and the region. Downstream application is one of the focus for our space policy in Oman. Actually, downstream application, as you know, it serves all the other sectors like logistics, AIs, agriculture, maritime, and other economy. So we are generating values from this application to help other sectors to maximize the benefit of space and to be very productive, achieving the goals of Oman Vision 2040 in terms of economic diversification. By the way, our ultimate goal regards the participation and economic participation with Oman National Digital Economy Program, as space is one of interest or component in this National Digital Economy Program, is to reach by the GDP contribution of 10%, in collaboration with other sectors like AI, cybersecurity, fintech, and digital industries. So this is the landscape or an overview of Oman space policy and its interest and how it's linked with the national strategies. That means we are very aligned with the national trends and interests.
Thank you very much, and that's great. That what I was trying to get out of this is some of the commonalities as well. So having a long-term vision at a national level, and then also from both of you understanding that these sit within wider sub-sector strategies within a country rather than space being its own sometimes peculiar thing on the side. So maybe I could turn to Rasha. Sort of part two of this question is, I won't go into detail, but we're in the midst of technology disruption across the space sector, commercial disruption, regulatory disruption. Things are changing pretty quickly around the world. Has that made you rethink some of the prioritizations of some of the focus areas you're working on?
Yes, for sure. So in terms of priorities, I think they have gradually shifted or changed over time. So if we compare the past, we'd say at the beginning, the focus was mainly on space education, outreach, building capabilities in upstream and downstream. This was our main focus, and which led to projects like Light One, the first Emirati Bahraini satellite that was launched. So its main purpose was capacity building. Then I would say priorities shifted a bit, where it became more towards indigenous technologies or nationalization of space technologies and local capabilities. And this is demonstrated in Al-Mundhir satellite, which was launched last year. So it included 4 fully in-house developed payload, and it tested new algorithms in space. So it was mainly, the focus shifted a little towards nationalization. So it's a little bit shift. And then I believe in the future, things will change how I think developing advanced infrastructure, which yet we don't have in Bahrain, like assembly, integration, and testing facilities to support the growth of the national space sector, like establishment of advanced ground stations, which is still not there. And of course, stimulating the private sector more and more, and embarking on advanced missions for technologies and applications, and eventually the announcement of the National Space Law, which takes us to the next subject, because it's very important in the upcoming phase to stimulate the growth of the private sector. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. And as you say, that takes us on nicely to topic 2, as I flagged around this question of sovereignty. And we could do a whole day conference on the topic of sovereignty, what it means, how you decide what it is it data sovereignty, infrastructure, physical things. But I'm sort of curious to understand, given the title of this conference about security, sovereignty, risks, how the world's again disrupting, is it making you think differently? You talked up front about partnership models, perhaps, or technology transfer. Again, is this changing the strategies you had, or bringing things forward now in your own mind? Or shall I go to Rasha? Do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, sure. So as I've mentioned earlier, so governments are rethinking the way things are done, right? Maybe procurement models and partnership models are changing a bit. Yeah. For now, for example, Bahrain's partnership model is values long-term strategic partnerships, right? And again, the main purpose is capacity building, while of course achieving the objectives of both partners. I think in the future, this partnership model might change a little bit, where we would embark on shared missions, maybe to reduce cost, reduce risk, shorten duration, shared infrastructure. So it would shift a little away from just knowledge transfer and capacity building. Another area where I would see models differently is procurement models. Yeah. The way I see it right now is, if I'm going to talk about space missions, specifically procurements and LEO, let us give an example. I think right now in Bahrain, we favor for procurement models turnkey solutions, meaning I engage in a contract to build, develop, launch, operate, establish ground segment, all under the same contract, while maximizing knowledge transfer. Okay, why? Because again, our main focus is knowledge transfer, capacity building. Another note is that because we don't have our facilities yet, so our procurement model will include building or integrating satellites in our partner facilities. Now, in the future, I'm sure this will change, where it will not only be turnkey solutions, right? It would be maybe multiple procurements under the same project. Furthermore, the focus will not be on a knowledge transfer. It will be more on nationalizing technologies and testing, in space, what we have done in space. And of course, utilizing our own future infrastructure. So this is the way I see things shifting now and in the future.
That's perfect. Yeah, thank you. So maybe, Hamida, Shekaili, can I turn to you and sort of get your perspective from Oman, how you're starting to think about this? And again, the same question, is it changing your thinking? Is it changing the way you think about procurement, systems, capacity building? It'd be great to get your view, please.
Yes, actually, as I mentioned before, Oman space sector is newly established. We learn much from world experience in terms of new space economy. Actually, as we are here in Oman, our focus in downstream application. At the same time, we have the kind of strategy for partnership, and we focus with this partnership and working closely with many stakeholders. At the same time, letting the private sector to invest in the sector for the purpose of economic diversification and for easy innovation and fast innovation that will help us to grow in this sector. Actually, we see that the implementation from government side and from a private sector side, partnership is there. They believe in that. And as an evidence for this is Itlaq spaceport, which is in Duqm in the Sultanate of Oman, one of the promising area for launch, and it will be ready for commercial activities by 2029. Thanks for all the effort done by the private sector Itlaq company. Actually, we see that there is an international collaboration, an international partnership in order to establish this spaceport, benefiting from others and benefiting others as well. That means there is a shared benefit for all the parties participating in this huge project. At the same time, we aim to serve the region and all other countries. We doing this actually for and other projects for the sake of transferring knowledge, localizing space technology and products at the same time. In addition to that, I'd like to say Oman implement or conduct the second Middle East Space Conference that is conducted by partnership with Nova Space. Actually, we able to get in touch with in person with about more than 500 attendees from about 30 countries in the last edition. Thanks for all the team, for all the effort they have did, and for all the participants and attendees in Oman. Actually, we see that the new trend is helping us. At the same time, we tend to do some such practice in addition to some other activities that we know that we do in coordination with some professional institute for training, sharing the benefits at the same time.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. It was great. It is interesting. The question was framed around sovereignty, and you're both bringing out, which we'll get to in a little bit as well, almost like regional shared sovereignty and collaboration, which I think it's an interesting take. Okay, so we're going to move on to topic number 3, everyone's favorite, regulations. I hope everyone's got a strong cup of coffee. So the context of this is we see it around the world, and not just within the space sector, this idea that is, can you use regulation to stimulate economic growth, commercialization of the space economy, or in some pushbacks you get in other regions or countries is the regulation actually doing that? So we may be familiar with perhaps like the EU Space Act. There's this sort of debate going on, is that to help the space economy grow, or is it actually going to hinder FDI and things like that? So curious from a GCC perspective, maybe particularly in your own country, there's some very good examples across GCC. Your views on, I'll describe it, could you use regulation as a competitive lever? So should we, I don't know who wants to start one. Shall I go back to Russia? Would you like to take this one first, please?
It's not my favorite question.
It's okay. It's okay.
Legal regulations is not my area, but I'll touch upon a little bit. Now, in general, regulations in Bahrain are there to attract the commercial sector. Yeah. We offer a tax-efficient environment, right? Especially for non-oil and gas. It's a digital environment. We have cloud-first policies, strong government support. There's the EDB that's supports and attracts investors. There's Tamkeen, another local entity for wage subsidies, SME support, and all that. And there's another aspect, which is 100% foreign ownership in most sectors. Now, all this with low operational cost really is ideal for the private sector. Now, this is one. Now, for space, specifically in space, and what we have done in terms of regulations and all that, I'll start with, as mentioned by my colleague, we have firstly the royal decrees, right, for the establishment of the agency, mandate of the board, what we need to do and all that. Then we have the national space policy that supports, Bahrain's vision. It supports His Majesty's King's vision in the space field. We have 3 strategic plans. We're in our 3rd strategic cycle. And all this has an objective, right, to create a more enabling environment, not only for the private sector, but government, private, academic, and all that. Because in Bahrain, we're looking for a whole ecosystem. It's not just privatization. Now, going back to regulations, the real hardcore, we are working on developing our national space law, right? And it's hopefully within the coming strategic cycle, we'll see progress there, but it will eventually accelerate, in my opinion, commercial ambitions and growth. Why? Because it will provide clear governance structures. It will reduce uncertainty in terms of regulations. It will enable public-private partnerships. It would help attract investors, SMEs, growth, innovation, entrepreneurship, and creating a competitive environment. Yet, I do want to say there's, as you mentioned, there's like 2 sides of it, right? So it would help, right, the growth of the commercial sector. And also we look at the national space law as it's there, it will be there to protect the kingdom. Why? By ensuring the private sector complies with the national space law and international space treaties, which, by the way, it does not oblige the private sector, right? So on the other hand, having the space law, how much would it hold back those private sector? Maybe not having it is better, yeah, for the private sector, but not better for Bahrain. So there is like two sides of the coin. And coming from a government sector, yeah, Bahrain comes first. We need the national space law to regulate all activities, including the private sector. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That I think you're exactly spot on there. That healthy tension between the incentivization to provide certainty for investors and FTI versus, certainty also has to come with some restrictions about where to play and how you do it as well, right? That's fascinating, yeah. Could I turn to Hamida Shekaili as well to get your perspective on Oman, or any things you are thinking about in your agency as well to promote your objectives using regulation?
Yes, thank you, Andy, and thank you, Rasha. Actually, as an early news that maybe some of us hear about it, that Oman has a royal degree to establish AI city. This city, it can be considered as a technical city or technology city that will host a number of sectors, including space. That's mean having such city, special city for AI. That's mean we have some special treatment and incentives and support for all the private sectors coming to Oman and investors willing to be in Oman. So enjoying some of the incentives like zero taxation, like support for wages, like ease of getting the license and so on. So we have a couple of features into this city. That's mean we are enabling space sector and other sector to grow and to be well established, serving all the world from the region. This is one of the good news that I'd like to say about regulation and the interest of the country and our leadership, His Majesty, for such technology and space industry and space sector in the country. One of the things that is a good news as well for us is that Oman, we with our partners here in Oman, with government concerned government entities, we start drafting our space law. And we expect this space law to be launched this year, hopefully. That's mean we are in hurry to having such law that's with consideration. We don't restrict the companies. No, we ease the process. We make things clear and transparent for all the stakeholders, for all the potential stakeholders and the key players who would like to operate in the country. So this is one of the good news about the regulations in Oman. At the same time, as we noticed that Itlaq Spaceport, they able to launch their first experimental suborbital launch in December 2024. That's mean this experimentation launch wouldn't happen without the collaboration with a number of government entities, including CAA, Civil Aviation Authority, and TRA, Ministry of Defense, and other ministries. Actually, they work closely in order to ease the process. Although we don't have a space law or regulation specifically for launching rockets to space, although they work together and they make it happen, that's mean we are willing to ease the process and to make things happen, believing that the space sector will help all of us in order to achieve our goals. In addition to that, at the same time, actually, Oman is very mature in regulation and legislation related to technology, and we are benefiting data and technology. We are benefiting from such from laws plus legislations and regulations and thanks for the interest of all the government parties to do well in this sector.
Yeah, perfect. I love that insight around cross-government collaboration and regulation, rather than sometimes you see quite siloed regulation across governments. That's fascinating. So in the spirit of that conversation and collaboration, I mean, there could be a hypothesis in a disrupted technological, commercial, regulatory world, in a world which is geopolitical tensions rising, decreasing, up and down all the time. One could think that countries may go insular and collaborate less. So I'm curious, you see around the world, perhaps space agencies collaborating regionally. From your own perspective, do you see that changing? Will there be more or less collaboration between space agencies within the region and more broadly? So perhaps Rasha can come back to you and get your view on, do you see this happening more or less?
I see that it would definitely happen more. Yeah. So I think there is currently a GCC-wide cooperation in space activities. Why? Because we share common interests, right? Like economic diversification, like sustainability, technology development, capabilities development. So we share common interests. And also we share common challenges, right? When it comes, for example, to water scarcity, I think one of the questions asked how. So water scarcity or green coverage or, a lot of earth sustainability challenges that is unique to the region. And that's why there's a lot of cooperation happening to work on joint solutions, to work on joint missions, all about that. And in the GCC, we have the GCC Space Cooperation Committee, which is under the General Secretariat of the Gulf Cooperation. And this year, Bahrain is chairing it. So this is one aspect in terms of GCC cooperation. And if there's more time, I'll tell you about the Arab Space Cooperation Group that goes beyond the GCC to include the Arab countries. And then for Bahrain, I would say there is a little bit of collaboration and competition, right? Why? Because we have our own needs, we have our own ambitions, and we want to uniquely identify ourselves in the GCC value chain, right? So there's a little bit of competition, but definitely a lot of cooperation. We wouldn't have reached where we are today with the support of our neighboring sisterly countries, right? UAE, for example, and Saudi Arabia, they supported us during the establishment phase of the agency, revising our policies, even the Bahrain space team, who are here with us today, by the way, they had helped us with interviews, screening, and even in terms of small little details. And then we go on bigger missions, like Light One, the first Bahraini Emirati satellite, like Oman payload, which is in collaboration with Markaz Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, like the Space for Sustainability program, working again with the UAE on solving regional and challenges that we can work on together. Then there is beyond LEO, we are currently working on a lunar rover with Markaz Mohammed bin Rashid. Oman, I think Mr. Hamad is here. Yeah, we are working, we have worked together on Bahraini algorithms on board, for example, Oman Lens satellite that was tested in space, again, to nationalize technologies. And so I think I covered a bit about GCC, cooperation and competition, what Bahrain is doing, again, a little bit of both. And I'll leave the floor for my colleague.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, and I think that's almost heartwarming to hear, because everyone knows space is a global team sport. And then in times of tension, sometimes that cannot happen. But you're telling me many things that seems to be happening more. So maybe from an Omani perspective, Hamidash, can you give us some perspectives? More or less in Oman, or do you agree with Rashid?
Actually, what can I add after
reinforce it? Yeah, we're all working together. Yeah.
Actually, as she mentioned, from GCC to Arab Space Cooperation to UN agreements. And I'd like also one thing, which is, I think Bahrain and Oman as well, and most of GCC countries member in Regional Center for Space Science and Technology Education, which is in Jordan. This is one of the centers that enable our talent in order to be well educated in space and to to be well occupied to achieve the ambitions of GCC national policies and strategies. This is one of the things we believe. We have a strong belief for collaboration and cooperation at the same time. With these two distinct words, actually, it's very evident with Oman experience, as I explained before, like XLAC project, Middle East Space Conference. We transfer it as a government to, we transfer such practice to private sector who lead the operation in the because here in the ministry, we don't provide services. Who is providing the services? The private sector. In Oman, we guide those private sectors in order to establish such cooperation, like Oman Lens, as she mentioned, Russia. They have good collaboration with the GCC countries and with other countries, with China and some other countries. Actually, we have Satmina, one of the company which is very which specialized in satellite communication. We have some other companies like ITCO Space. They have very good partnership and collaboration and cooperation with these three distinctive words. We are happy that seeing the government and private sector going with the same strategy and with same trends. That's mean we are maximizing our existence in this sector. We are not alone, but we are among other key partners in the space for all.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, thank you. Okay, that's amazing. Collaboration is live, and as Rasha said, why collaborate? Because you have common interests and common challenges, which gets us nicely onto our last topic around workforce, talent pipelines. And you see this across the world. It's not unique to any particular country or space agency. And in the spirit of picking the best out of people's brains and understanding what you guys are thinking and working on, it'd be good to talk a little bit about how you're doing capacity building the generation of talent to serve these long-term strategies and ambitions. And I think it's a struggle for most countries around the world. So if you've got any great ideas that people can take away or we can put out there, I'd love to hear them. So maybe back to Rasha as well. Like, can you come from a Bahraini perspective? How are you thinking about this over the long term?
Sure. So developing talent is considered, firstly, a key pillar, right, for a sustainable space sector in the future. Even when you want to commercialize, I say I want to have investors and drive SME growth. How are you going to do that if there's no talent, if there's no local talent? Also, how will you do that without outreach and awareness? So how are you going to have investors from within the country who are willing to invest in something they don't know anything about, right? Which is a huge risk for the investor. Or even for an SME to do something in space where they have no clue. So I think space education and outreach are key pillars for the space sector growth. This is number one. How this is being done, I can give you a lot of examples, like advanced academic studies, scholarships, such as in the case of Bahrain, in the UK and UAE, working on actual projects that achieve knowledge transfer, again, like Light One, LobbySat, and other examples. Specialized training programs and courses, like, for example, UNATI's ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, UNATI's program for nanosatellites development, or even in data processing and analytics, University of Twente is in the Netherlands is a good example. For Bahraini youth, we have offered internships, on-job shadowing opportunities. We have engaged in research projects, even if small publications or bigger projects with the education institutes in Bahrain, organizing events like hackathons. I think one of the chat members, I think Hussein, mentioned hackathons. We do annual space apps hackathons every year. And specifically last year with Al-Mundir's launch, we organized 3 hackathons. And this year, there is the Arab Space Cooperation Group, which I did not mention, part of partnerships. They are working on the first Pan-Arab hackathon as part of the Arab Space Cooperation Group, utilizing the data from the Arab Satellite 813 that was launched part of the Arab Space Cooperation Group. Another example of local talent development in Bahrain is like Tamkeen, for example, as a local entity to support local talent development and entrepreneurship. So I think this is what Bahrain's doing in terms of talent development. And then there's nationalizing space technologies, which maybe later after Hamad, because I too long for me, too long.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's fascinating the amount of what I like it is grounded in practicality as well. These aren't theoretical degrees. This is like getting your hands on it and doing something, and the collaboration part again, which is great to hear.
This is why always agencies start with a small program, right? A small 3U CubeSat rather than a big machine. And this was one of our challenges, because the bigger the missions are, if we engage in a microsatellite as our first project, there will be less knowledge transfer and capacity built. So you have to start with something small, a 3U, a 1U, whatever it is, just to know the basics and then move on to bigger missions. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because if something's a 10-year mission, that's a long learning journey. But yeah, that's a fascinating insight. Yeah. So maybe, Hamid, can you, from an Omani perspective, how are you thinking about this in Oman? Any other different things you can add to this conversation?
Actually, we have the same. Thanks, Andy. We have the same belief for the importance of talent and localization of such talent to serve the nation. One of the things that with Oman Space Policy and Executive Program is the capacity building is one of the key pillars. One of the 4 pillars. It's capacity building is the one of the 4 pillars. At the same time, we translate such interest in building our talents here by some activities. Actually, there is a royal directives to develop and implement national capacity building program in space sector for the 3 years, initially from 2024 to 2027, with 3 passages. The first passage, which is for professional working in government and private sector. The second thing for entrepreneurship and encouraging and our entrepreneurs to have their own startups for the purpose of economic diversification. The third passage is academia and qualifying our youth to be well educated and have bachelor degree, master degree, and PhD in space and its related application and industry. All of these, it's our interest, it's our goal. Thanks for God, here we have an achievement in this sector. In 2023, I can say we have 152 employees working in space, different space organizations in Oman. Now we have more than 400, and from time to time we see some talents. They are now doing perfect with Earth observation analytics, with ITLAQ project, with satellite communication in terms of operation, in terms of maintenance, and such kind, which was not available, was not existed before the launch of our space space policy. So we have a good achievement in this area. One of the things that I'd like to mention here, that we conduct a series of workshops during the 3 years from 2023 to 2025, and we're able to have 300 participants from different segments, from government, from private sector, from entrepreneurships and academia. That means now they are capable of doing something or to learn something new, which enable them to support or to help us in achieving our goals. One of the things that we have a practice here in Oman, we conduct some special professional workshops. That's mean we bring some private sector from international, from outside the country, in order to explore the potential. At the same time, to give some technology session or professional sessions for our startup, for our academia, and for our government employees, in order to open the chance for such companies to be in Oman, to do some services in Oman, by the help or by the dependency on our talent here in the country. So that's an opportunity for such investor to see to what extent our talent is ready, and that makes them relax in terms of having some incentives at the same time where they are performing the business or providing services from Oman.
Perfect. That's great. And again, the practicality, as you said, when you have some of the physical assets like akhlaq, then that enables some of these learning programs. And then from all of it, basically the whole conversation, this spirit of collaboration, internationalization, that's still good and alive, which from my perspective is beautiful to hear. I can see Alex's face here, which means he's saying, time out, you guys have got to stop. So I'd just like to say thank you to both Rasha and Hamid. As you can see, these guys are extremely busy, got many things they're trying to do. So we really appreciate you taking an hour of your time to explain to everyone here, give us some insights, some practical insights to what you're doing. So thank you very much, myself and both Alex, for your time today. And I'll hand back to Alex to take us on to the next session.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.